Alright, so let's fly some traffic patterns here at Marathon in Florida. We're going to depart on runway 07. Now some airports may have specific procedures, specific layouts for the traffic pattern, but today we're just flying the very standard pattern. That's what you fly when nothing else is prescribed, and that's 1,000 feet above ground with left turns. So we're at sea level right now, so we just climbed to 1,000 feet for our pattern. Our pre-takeoff checks are the flaps up because the runway is paved and more than long enough. Mixture is rich, carpet is cold, primer is locked, the trim is set for takeoff, landing light is on. Alright. We'll have a bit of a headwind now, so remember on crosswind and on base leg we will have a crosswind, and you should compensate for these crosswinds to make or to fly the correct track above ground. Alright, so the speeds I'm going to use are 50 knots for rotation. Then I'll continue my climb with 70 knots to our traffic pattern altitude, because there's not really any, or there are not really any critical obstacles in our departure sector. For the descent in the traffic pattern I'll then use 70 to 80 knots, and for final approach 60 knots. Alright, let's go. Airspeed alive, engine instruments checked, 50 knots rotate, and I'm climbing with 70 knots now. Remember to use right rudder during climb. Alright, so turning crosswind. Remember, during crosswind, as the name implies, we'll have a crosswind from the right in this case, so apply some wind correction. And then we're already approaching 1,000 feet, so level off. Gain some speed. And then reduce the power. I'll use 2200 RPM now. And turn downwind. Trim the airplane. Okay, we're on downwind. Now we'll wait until we're abeam the landing threshold, which is now. Now reduce the power a bit. Switch on carb heat. Then when we reach white arc on the airspeed indicator, which is now, flaps 10, and then start to descend. Roughly 70 knots. Now when the airport, or actually runway, is roughly 45 degrees behind us, to our left, turn base. Again, here we'll have some crosswind. Keep the landing runway in sight. Speed is checked, flaps 20. And then turn final. Reducing my speed now to the final approach speed of 60 knots. Now speed is checked, flaps 30. You could use a lesser flap setting here because it's a long runway, but I'll just use flap 30 for training. Now, flaps 30 set, mixture rich. Carpet is on. 60 knots. So our landing checklist is complete. You could switch the carpet off here on short final in case you have to go around. But otherwise, you have to do it after landing, or as we do a touch and go landing now, you have to do it after landing before you apply power again. Now remember, for the flare, don't look too close ahead of the aircraft. Look into the distance, so at the runway end and beyond. This makes it easier to judge your height. And then just throttle idle over the runway threshold, and then pull the nose up a bit, and when the airplane starts to descend, pull up a little bit more, and when it descends again, a bit more again, bit more, bit more, bit more. Alright, lower the nose wheel, carb heat cold, flaps up, and take off. 50 knots rotate. This happens really fast on a touch and go. And I'm climbing again with 70 knots. And we'll do the same again. Let's turn crosswind. (1,000 feet), so level off. Gain some speed. Then reduce the power. Turning downwind. Alright, we're on downwind. Then we wait again until we pass the landing threshold. Which is now, so power reduce a bit, carb heat on. Then reaching wide arc, speed checked. Flaps 10, mind the ballooning, and start your descent. Alright, then turning base. look at the runway. Okay, it's looking quite good. Speed is checked, flaps 20. And turning final. Right, speed checked, flap 30, and reducing my speed to 60 knots. Flaps 30 set, mixture rich, copied on, and our landing checklist completed. Again, overhead the threshold, reduce power to idle, and then slowly, incrementally raise the nose more and more as the aircraft wants to descend towards the ground. Make sure you touch down with the main wheels first. Right, throttle idle, pull back, level out, air crane descent, so pull a bit more, pull a bit more. Alright, carb heat cold, flaps up, and take off. Remember right rudder, 50 knots rotate. Right, turning crosswind. And we have reached 1000 feet, so level off. Accelerate. Then reduce power, trim the airplane, turn downwind. I've climbed a bit too much now, so I should return to my 1000 feet. There we go. Okay, so this time we'll do a full stop landing and we'll do a short approach. And we'll simulate an engine failure on downwind. That's a very good exercise. You should try this once in a while. So here in the simulator we can safely really do the engine failure. So I just pull the mixture. Let's suppose we have an engine failure. So our goal is now to reach the runway. I know that my best glide speed is 60 knots, so I'll pitch right up. I don't want to fly too far away from the runway. Keep your runway in sight and then use your flaps, S-turn, so maybe a slip if needed if you come in too high, to reach the runway, or to, if necessary, to descend quicker. But okay, it's looking good. Main thing here, of course, is don't get too low. So I use my flaps. I don't use my flaps right now, because I don't need any additional drag, because I'm not really too high. Okay, look at the runway. There it is. Okay. Still no flaps needed. Okay, I'll do this one without flaps, that's fine. Yep, you can see I barely made the runway, so I should have turned towards the runway earlier probably, but it was a good thing I didn't use flaps, otherwise I would have had too much drag and I wouldn't have reached the runway. Alright, this was just a quick demonstration to finish the lesson about traffic patterns. So see you in the next one.